Hello and welcome back to the Dual Comm Party Chat podcast with your host,
It's the party.
BBK Dragon and
What's up?
People's Vox Lost Saves, whatever you want to call me this week.
I'm going to call you, well, what character do you use in Unreal Tournament? I don't actually know the name.
I don't either. The Gundam looking guy.
The robot dude?
Yeah.
He's got a name.
I knew the name last week and I've already forgotten.
Yeah. How are you?
I am doing well. I can't stop playing Unreal Tournament, so that's become a problem in my life, but that's fine. It's fine. No big deal. I don't have a problem. You have a problem.
Oh, it's been the best thing of all time, dude, getting to go back and play it. And that pulled me into the first multiplayer stuff I've actually played in a few years. So Quake Live has been played. Quake Champions has been played.
Yeah.
Tried Xenotic. Nobody's really on Xenotic at a low ping spot, but I've just been having a ton of fun. We've got a lot. We should just fly straight into the show. So housekeeping stuff. This is Dual Comm Party Chat, the companion podcast to the Dual Comm podcast. This is where we look at your comments and questions and topic ideas across various videos, mainly on the Dual Comm podcast, our Patreon page, and all that stuff. You can find the Patreon at patreon.com/dualcomm. And we go through and we answer as many as possible. So with housekeeping out of the way, let's just get to the game of the week, Epos.
To the game. Well, we already spoiled it. Unreal Tournament 2004 is back. It's playable. I have 5 servers up for it. Cracked even had a piece on Unreal Tournament in 2026. It's amazing.
Yeah, so the old Unreal project, we've talked about this maybe I think we talked about it on the last show, but oldunreal.com has gotten the blessing of Epic. Epic shut down the hosting of all the Unreal Tournament stuff. I don't know why you mentioned it. They could have kept an XP rig in the closet running for all the people that were probably going to download it, but whatever.
Yeah.
But they gave this community modding team the blessing to basically enhance and improve. And the first patch in 20 years has come out, and it does some stability improvements, some networking changes, and some stuff that gets it running a little bit easier on modern resolutions. And it is a very easy process to install and start playing. You can play offline with bots, which is an amazingly fun experience. These are just UT99 is also there, and I think they have one more game. I can't remember which, but really awesome. I'm not going to lie. You're not going to go online and find hundreds and hundreds of well-populated servers with low ping. It's still a very small community initiative, but Epos has been supporting it hardcore.
Yeah.
Spinning up servers here in the United States and just doing game nights on it and stuff like that. So you want to talk further?
Yeah, so I'm hoping to have an EU server spun up as well, just to kind of flesh everything out. But if you go to instajib.gg, it'll take you to a forum post of mine where I have the server information. I've been diving into the world of hosting servers for the games, which for old games like this is both absurdly easy now, but also kind of jank, because it's super easy because, it's a game from 2004, so it only requires one low-power CPU core and a gig of RAM, which is... You can actually do it for free. I have a video coming soon on main channel on Epos Vox where I show you how to do it using Google's free cloud services, because it's so insignificant to host. You don't even got to pay for it as long as you set it up right. But it's also kind of jank because it's a program from 22 years ago and was not built. It was 32-bit, and getting any of it to work properly is just a whole mess. But we've got it down to basically 2 console commands that you just run to host the server, and it's great. We are going to use the service GameDate at gamedate.org, where it's a website dedicated to basically building calendar events and scheduling, going back to older games, getting group sessions going, and making that discoverable so you can actually get servers populated. So that is super exciting. I'm very stoked to be back in this kind of, whether you're playing against bots or people, in and out server browser arena shooter vibe is exactly what I've been missing for my 5 or 10 minute game sessions that I don't like. We talk a lot about session games and filling in our quick sessions with that, but sometimes I finish up with work and I have 5, maybe 10 minutes while I'm watching the little bus tracker for my kiddo getting dropped off from school, and I'm like, I could do something, and I can go get some headshots and then log out and be totally fine.
Yeah. I literally have just been listening to music and playing 20, 30 minutes against the bots for the most part and cranking them up the second to highest level. And it is so much fun. It's relaxing. It's a good reminder of hey, I grew up on arena shooters, and this is one of my favorite games of all time. So yeah, it's well worth trying. I'm trying to think of a lot of questions came in between your video and my video. People ask, will it run on Mac and Linux? The answer is EPOS.
Yes. And I have
Yep.
to say, I even had apparently the dev of the Linux installer respond to me on social media and ask what the experience was like. But I have to say, like, it is arguably the easiest game install you will ever have on Linux, even better than Steam, because you literally just download a single file that you double click and it executes the script and just downloads everything and installs it for you. And at the end, you're good to go. Like,
The
you
real
don't have to
question,
do anything.
Can you do it from the terminal?
You can.
Just, see, that's all you need to know, right? Linux superiority, once again. I had questions about, will it run on the Steam Deck and does it work on controller? The answer is, EPOS.
It does. For normal PC play, if you want controller support, you still have to add it to Steam, even if you're not playing the Steam copy, so you can get the Steam input mapping. But whether you're on Deck or PC, Steam input will handle it, and you can play with the controller. I would still love to see old Unreal Team, if it's even possible, add in some sort of native controller support, especially since there are plenty of ways through their installer to not play it on Steam now. But you do, if you are dedicated to playing it on controller or on Deck, it will work.
Yeah. It's a great
magic
game. Go check it out. Go to instagib.gg or instagib.gg, and you've got the IP addresses for the servers there for people to try. And those servers are running all the time, by the way.
Yeah.
And if you are not online with other people, the bots are in there, and the bots are fairly fun to play against.
Yes, the bots are great. And you can spin up your own, like you said, offline bots match if you want as well, which is totally fine. It's a lot of fun. Crank them up to Adept, or if you hate yourself, you could put them on Godlike, but don't expect to go very far that way.
Yeah. Oldunreal.com. Thank you to the Old Unreal team. What's our video of the week?
It is a video that was sponsored by the Norwegian government for talking about encrapification and how they're putting together basically a consumer council to start breaking down ways to resist it and to hopefully build out. I mean, the video itself is like a comedy skit. It's not really going into all that. It's a very funny comedy skit about a day in the life of an encrapicator. We are obviously censoring it for the podcast here, but you know the word. And it is very funny.
Yep.
They even have a fake like TEDx talk going on. It's glorious.
It's a pretty direct call out, and it's nice to see. Essentially, digital services are awesome when they start to get the user base, and then they just kind of ruin it and keep you hostage, and directly calling out things like what's happening in the vehicle industry, where you're having to pay to use like very basic features that you own. Like, you should not need a subscription service to get updates for your vehicle. I'm not talking about like the EV stuff or some of those more like beta features that like Tesla and stuff are doing. I have no real knowledge about what's happening there, but I'm talking about like literally normal automobiles where you're having to pay. And this is good to see. I don't know if it's going to get any momentum. I think the idea behind the campaign is right. They're going to submit legislation, try and get Europe to take action on some of these things, sending letters to policymakers in the EU, the UK, and the US. So I hope it works.
Yeah, it's exciting. Ultimately, is that
the
more resistance, the more movement we have of private individuals, private companies, governments, whoever trying to tackle this, the more we can actually see results from this. And this is on the back of the EU and various European countries pushing to get away from like Microsoft and other US tech investments in general. So we might see some really good progress in the next 5 years.
Yep. Can we also shout out, you mentioned it there, but let's just do the website of the week, gamedate.org.
Yes.
This is a really cool site. I don't have the video in front of me to shout out the developer who made this. I'll do that in a second. But like you mentioned, this is a public anonymous platform for scheduling gaming sessions. It solves the discoverability problem for dead games, niche mods, retro net play, and anything else that has players but no coordination mechanism. No account required, no downloads, just pick a game, set a time, and share. And it is got the old green Steam UI, but if you actually look in the bottom right-hand corner, you can change the size of the GUI. You can change the color of the GUI. It's perfect. It's like the absolute perfect blend of old Steam UI, old internet feeling. And yeah, let's say we wanted to get a game night going for UT 2004. We would literally create a new session, put the date down, and then it is listed there in a calendar view. And so a player like myself can come on here. I can look through the games that are coming up, what's going to start soon, what's going to be in a few days. And you can literally click and say like an RSVP. Will you be there? Do you think you're going to be there? And you can get a sense of like, oh, wow. So looking at this list over here, there's 44 interested people on an EU Counter-Strike source server, I guess. And they're in the chat and they're all talking about what game types they want to play. Like this feels so good and so old school.
This is what early Steam and RIP Xfire was for me back in the day, especially seeing the screen UI. Like you would pull up, especially in games back then, like you had your server browser through Steam. So you'd pull up your Steam overlay and see the servers, chat with your like clan members or whatever, and hop in and join. So seeing this kind of thing come back and really just, it feels like the perfect solution at the moment. Obviously, without direct integration into Steam or whatever people normally use, access is limited because people got to know about it and go to it. But like, it's really cool. They have it set up so that you can get reminders for the events either in specific calendars, or you can get a general calendar file, or through Discord bots as well, which is awesome.
Yeah. So huge shout out, gamedate.org. Start using it. I'm going to keep this bookmarked and check it from time to time because I guarantee you there's going to be some, I wonder if I could do a Nexus thing.
Yes.
Nobody really owns Nexus anymore though. But
no, but you could get a few people together that are like, heck yeah, I'd love to see what that's about. And like,
dude, one of your community game nights would be so sick with Nexus.
Yeah.
I've heard it runs poorly on the PC, which is unfortunate. I never cared on the 360 because, of course it ran.
Yeah, I was going to say it did run great on Xbox.
Yeah. Well, why don't we hop into the first question for the show?
Yeah, so we, as usual, now our first round of comments comes from our Patreon, patreon.com/dualcomm. Great place where you can get some exclusive content as well as just an algorithm-free feed of our podcast that you can sign up for free to get so that you don't have to rely on YouTube or whatever. First question is from Murray Rinnick. I just want to say thank you guys for giving me so many game recommendations. I want to say I've probably beat 20 to 30 games recommended by you guys. Favorites of which were Haste, Expedition 33, Metro Exodus, and Mass Effect games. These really changed my perspective on gaming, so I'm a patron for life. What are traits you look for when finding these games? They are spot on. And then they have a recommendation to go try Echo Point Nova, Terminator Resistance, Turbo Overkill, and 2003 Prey for the first Fear game if you haven't tried those yet.
Murray's giving away my next Secret Sauce Evening In video. Echo Point Nova.
Really?
I was playing last night and this morning. Oh yeah, dude. I was trying to hold this one close to the vest because my gosh, dude, it's good. It is good. You've got a hoverboard. You've got a grapple hook. It is such a precise, great feeling FPS game. You've got to check it out. It has a demo. It's got a demo. It's $15 right now, or at least it was a few days ago. I don't know. That's like the lowest price it's been. So I was like, I'll wait for the spring sale and check the price history. But it is phenomenal.
It is Steam trailer. It looks
good,
great.
dude. I'm telling you, coming off of Don't Stop Girly Pop that you just beat, you should absolutely play this. So what a nice comment, by the way. And I'm looking forward to looking at Terminator Resistance. Turbo Overkill, I've heard great things about. I never played Prey. I know a lot of people really loved Prey. So
I really want to go back and play it. I had it on the original Xbox, and both it and Xbox 360 is what it came out on. But I didn't have it on PC. But it and BioShock both. I had tried on the 360 when that was like my main platform, and I was playing on my parents' my dad's always been a big TV guy, and so we had a plasma screen at the time, which was beautiful. Like I really, to this day, I still kind of want a plasma screen for certain movies and stuff, but it had horrible input lag, and I didn't know anything about that at the time. And BioShock, the intro when you're bobbing in the water, and Prey both, I think they were 30 FPS games, so that plus the input lag, like it made me motion sick, which I had never experienced before, and so I never went back and finished them, so I really need to.
You know what's funny? Not to waste more time, but Dusk. Dusk is the first like FPS game I literally like had to stop playing because the view bob made me like get absolute room spins, and I was like, okay, I can't do it.
As far as how we find games, honestly, it's just about the vibes. Like it's just about, like, I'm looking at the Terminator Resistance page right now, and like obviously you can only trust marketing to such a degree, but like, is it a kind of genre that I've played before that I would be interested in? Are the reviews positive? Does it look like it does something fun, or is it just there to take up space? And just kind of evaluate from there. And after you try enough games, you really start to key in on some honestly like intangible things that either become massive things that tell you, hey, I'm really going to like this, or just little red flags that you don't even think about. That's just like, that looks not quite right. I'm going to not bother.
I think that's a good way to put it, because like I can tell you one giant flag for me is if the first trailer is actual gameplay on Steam, that is like a huge win. If both trailers are cinematic reveals, sorry. Like if I have to bounce to another platform to try and look up long play stuff, that's usually a no-no. And then it's like you said, we grew up playing a ton of demo discs. We've grown up from the like early eras of console-ish. I get, well, never mind. Somebody's gonna like take total issue with that, because like SNES and NES is like the first stuff that I remember, and someone's gonna be like, "You loser, you child,
you didn't play the Wonder Swan."
Yeah. It is a lot of watching, reading, trudging through endless pages of Steam games, looking at like the new Steam games, and then wish listing a ton of stuff. And then I'll come into a Steam sale and then do another like look through my wish list, see what's going on.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of work. I think that's the main thing here is like you have to be willing to try, and trying tons of demos and stuff that isn't that great and being okay with that, you know?
Yep.
And so I wish there was the one-stop shop. This is the sickest Reddit or web page with the perfect curation, and here's all the amazing hidden gems nobody had any idea about. But it's a personal journey, and it's a bunch of effort and time put in to find that stuff. And I'll tell you what, it is mainly for me, not YouTube. It is mainly like looking at Steam stuff and just reading, you know?
I will say, for like a couple tangible examples from like the games they listed, Haste, I genuinely, I start following a bunch of games journalists and indie devs and things like that on social media. They start reposting each other's work, sharing demos, whatever. I saw something about a Haste demo being available. I thought it looked neat. I downloaded the demo on Steam, finished it in 20 minutes, and was like, I have to buy the game. Bought it, beat it in a week. It was... Someone said something about it, and I tried the demo and got hooked. Expedition 33, I obviously haven't played yet, but you beat. We were both kind of put onto it by the big Xbox event last year, where they had the interviews with the devs and things, like the whole story of the studio. So, like, paying attention to that kind of games media really helps to figure out. I mean, I talked about the interviews with the Fable game on one of the episodes. Like, those kinds of things really... That's how you start getting your feet wet, and then you can evaluate more critically as you move on from that point.
Yeah, just go searching. There's no reason to ever be bored right now, especially on PC, because the amount of demos that are coming out on Steam is overwhelming. The only thing that I would say is like I get really irritated, like if you're just browsing through page after page, because there is a lot of just slop and like total asset flip kind of games that are still pushed on Steam every day. Same thing with the demos.
Yeah.
If you're in the loophole of like, you've been searching for 20, 30 minutes and you just feel discouraged, just stop. Go do something else. You know, take that break. Because I do get to those, like this next fest, dude, I didn't feel it super hard. Like the first day or two, I tried a bunch of stuff. I had fun. And then like day 3 or 4, I'm like trudging, looking through listing after listing going, I don't feel like try to like look through this mountain of stuff right here, because a lot of it just didn't speak to me.
Yeah, this is the first year I've really dug into it. My favorite thing was to just focus on specific subgenres. So like I've been really into dungeon crawlers lately, and then really into, since we were talking about how we don't get a lot of them lately, spectacle fighters. So I was going through the subgenre searching tools that Next Fest gave me, and was just looking for anything in those categories that fit those kinds of vibes. And yeah, I'm going to miss out on cool things in other genres at the time, but like I can only try so many demos anyway. So I just focused on that, and then it became a lot easier to just kind of filter down what passed the sniff test and what didn't. Whereas if you're just looking through the master list, there was like 4,000 things. You were never going to get through it. Got another question from the same person on our Patreon saying, one thing I truly miss about the Xbox 360 was the social aspect and ease of finding someone's gamer tag that you recently played with. It was so easy to invite them to a party, add them as a friend, and so on. Do you see Steam, especially with console-like products like the Steam Machine, integrating more of a social aspect to their UI in the next 10 years? And what do you wish was part of that package. I think a huge missed opportunity with PC is the ease of use for social gaming and social gaming for casual gamers.
That's a great question. I mean, I have a short answer. I feel like there's plenty of great social features on Steam, and I think user behavior is what has shifted.
Yeah.
I think you can easier than ever before with more tools than ever before connect with communities and play with communities. And it's just our user behavior, I believe, has shifted. People are less interested in like running a mic in a public match, be it toxicity, be it like years of like adoption to online social gaming and like the pros and the cons of it. So I don't really know. Steam has such dialed social features that I feel like maybe there's another platform I could think of ideas for, but I'm curious your response because obviously there could be more things done to foster it, but I really believe like it's mainly down to just user behavior at this point.
Well, I also think it's down to the games. Like Steam itself provides tons of features, but individual games still have to implement it. And we've seen the trend with some multiplayer games of just, not leveraging that many social features within their game at all. But I think if we're comparing like the Xbox Live feature set applied across whatever game you were playing versus Steam, I think we have just about everything. And as long as the game supports it, you can in a lot of games, you could right click someone's name on the leaderboard, view their Steam profile, message them, whatever. Obviously, they have to have their messages open. And like you said, user behavior plays a role there. I think Steam itself does just about everything it can. It just comes down to the games. And I think it's also an age thing. Like our age group now, yeah, we've kind of aged out of that. We're not sitting on open mic every time we play a game excited to squeak and yell at someone. We are vibing to music, or for me half the time not even using sound because I'm doing other things or whatever. Whereas from what I have seen, the younger crowd still does kind of roll with social things being at the forefront because that's where they are in life, or they're doing the party games where they're using in-game voice comms or already in a Discord chat. I mean, Discord taking over really kind of pulled everyone out. We already saw, do you remember when Sony, like PSN got party chat and how big of a deal that was? Because Xbox had always had it basically. Like
party jank.
Yeah. Party chat
it was in contrast.
already pulled a lot of people out of game lobby voice chat anyway. And then Discord really pulled everyone out of it even further, especially on PC. So I would like to think that Valve will keep doubling down on it because, I mean, even we talked about the LinkedIn post from the Amazon Games guy and how he talked about how Steam isn't just a game store. It's all these features put together. Those extra features, like social and community features through Steam, are a big part of the selling point, whether it's reviews or guides or the forums you can get for every game, including games that aren't even on Steam, or you can stream to Steam, although it's really jank and hard to figure out. Like, the tools are there. Most people just don't use them.
There's actually like a little good guide on steamnavigator.com where it talks about, I'll just drop this in the Discord chat for you, all the different like features that are available there, like what the activity feed
sick.
shows, Steam groups, communities. Like, I don't think people realize that Steam has groups and group pages and curator pages, and it has a voice chat thing. It's got a chat module. It's not the same as Discord, but we're actually at a very good intersection right now for this question because as many people are leaving Discord over their new facial recognition stuff with the age verification, upload your government ID junk, there are plenty of people who are going to be looking for greener pastures and a new opportunity. And maybe that's TeamSpeak or Matrix or Ventrilo. I don't know what it's going to end up being, but this is probably a good opportunity to lean more into those things. So depending on the type of games you play, I would probably start looking first at Steam groups and go from there because I bet you there is a community of people who really rely and still use these features on Steam. Like you go to the community hub for a game, it's active. Even if they're really old games, there's still new posts and guides and artwork and all sorts of stuff being uploaded.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff on there. And yeah, Steam group chats are pretty solid. They are laid out similarly to Discord now. Obviously, there's going to be differences in the features. But I mean, even with like the Steam video recording, you can clip something in your game and immediately share it to a Steam group chat, which is pretty neat. It's pretty seamless compared to a lot of the things you do with Discord. So I
like it.
I don't know that there's more for Steam to do, but I definitely hope more people use these features.
All right, shall we move on to the next topic?
Sure. So this is not specifically a viewer listener question, but I wanted to share it. I always have a little bit of like outside discourse that I share in the show from time to time. This is a blog post that my wife actually found through Tumblr, but I found the actual blog post for it called Deplatform Yourself from, I forget their name, Cory Doctorow. And basically the whole blog post, the gist is basically that like to be culturally relevant and seem as cool is to not be algorithmically friendly. And we see a lot of scenarios in which that's used to do bad things. But for the most part, it comes down to the more algorithmically friendly and sanitized and prettied up and whatever something is, the less original it feels, the less unique it feels, the less taste-making it feels. And that's kind of, to me, the whole blog post, I have it linked in the video description or in the show notes. A lot of it comes down to what we have talked about on this show about algorithms and about this podcast and our goal to basically not make it super algorithmically optimized, even though that means worse performance, because we want to preserve what we're trying to do with it. And the core message basically of this whole blog post is to keep your sheen, to keep your face of cool following algorithmic optimization or whatever is very important.
I love the quote. He basically says, like, I make a lot of stuff that's unmonetizable.
Yes.
And these are things that I do to woo the muse of the odd. And there's a quote from the person that he's talking about here. It's Bruce Sterling, who did a 1991 keynote for GDC, which is amazing. I had no idea GDC was going
I honestly
that long.
didn't either.
Yeah. People should read the whole post, but can I just read like the last little paragraph here? He says, this is Sterling, by the way, the 1991 GDC talk quote. I don't think you can last by meeting the contemporary public taste, the taste from the last quarterly report. I don't think you can last by following demographics and carefully meeting expectations. I don't know many works of art that last that are condescending. I don't know many works of art that last that are deliberately stupid. Get weird. Get way weird. Get dangerously weird. Get sophisticatedly, thoroughly weird, and don't do it halfway. Put every ounce of your horsepower you have behind it. I love that.
Yeah.
It's so funny because these are this is not a new problem at all. We talk about the algorithm like bringing it front and center, but it's the same story decade after decade after decade. Are you creating something meaningful, authentic, and original, or are you just trying to follow the pattern, the noise, and sticking in the same lane that everybody else is?
Yeah. And it's so funny to have come across this post, which this whole blog, the author, whatever, as it was brought to me, had no presence in relation to games. And then I'm reading this post and suddenly we're quoting a GDC talk from 30 plus years ago. And it ties back to games. And on top of the creation aspect, as you just established, this is what we've talked about with games forever. The games that last and are important to us are not the ones that just keep the thing going. And coming off of yesterday's announcement that Highguard is shutting down, and we're seeing no end to games just chasing these specific trends and whatever. The games that last the longest are the ones that never did that. And specifically when it talks about like when he says get dangerously weird, sophisticated, thoroughly weird, and don't do it halfway. Weirdly enough, I'm just taken to freaking From Software and Kingsfield and Souls games and how they were, they've maybe made them a little more accessible as we've trailed into Elden Ring, but like the whole discourse around the game is how they're deliberately inaccessible because they want to be as weird and as locked into their mission as possible. And yeah, they could have made a Skyrim version of a Souls game where it was super mainstream and super casual and whatever, and no one would have cared.
Yeah. Well, we talk about it a lot. I feel like the indies are still that space that is daring to be weird and daring to stick ideas together. And it's also understandable why, like, the super quadruple A bajillion-dollar games are not willing to take that risk, designed by a boardroom, designed with these traits in mind. Highguard is shutting down already. I know many people are like, well, that's not a surprise whatsoever. But there was a lot of time and effort put into that. And
Yeah.
there's this disconnect that I wonder where it does feel a lot like the GIF. Hello, my fellow gamers, holding the skateboard. And
You're ready for a new hero-based extraction shooter, right, fellow gamers? That's what we're all here for with the battle pass. And
we've like all moved on from that, everybody.
Yeah.
It's like, unless this really moves the needle,
yeah, I want to
these
give
are not shocks.
I want to give a shout out to another example that you and I both played this week that by the time the show goes live, unfortunately, the demo as it is now will cease to exist, which I am not a fan of. We talked about a bunch, but a demo I played yesterday called TIMECODES, which is a first-person shooter with crazy movement tech. It's more of a 3D platformer. You just happen to have a gun. But I heard it described as aesthetically being very marathon-coded, except it actually does interesting things and takes the marathon-like aesthetics to 11, whereas all of the complaints I've seen about marathon right now outside of gameplay has been yeah, they got the cool visual style, but you start to ignore it after a few minutes because it's all kind of samey and they don't really do anything interesting with it. And it's a very cool genre of aesthetics that I love, but I have also felt like the marathon presentation of it has just been kind of oh, it's just a nod to, with so many mainstream games now, we get a nod to a specific style, but they're never all in on it. And TIMECODES is an example of a game that just locks all the way in on that thing in a way that may be off-putting to some. But as we've talked about before, and any real old school marketing advice will tell you too, if you've read Primal Branding or whatever, is that you need people to disagree with your presentation, with your branding, with your idea, or you're not going to have any buy-in either. And I think everyone is afraid to have people disagree with what they're putting out there now, that we lose a lot in that.
I think about Tarkov, right? Obviously, Marathon has heavy inspiration from
Yeah.
Tarkov, but it feels like Tarkov takes the risk of we made a product that's super not for everybody.
Yeah.
It's frustrating. It has huge problems, but there is a very specific niche who is going to absolutely vibe with this level of pure abuse and how
Yes.
hardcore it is and how in depth it is and all these things. And then you have Bungie coming in going well, we love extraction shooters, but how can we sanitize and make this more appealable to a broad base? And I think that completely misses the whole point.
Yeah.
That is the catnip for those players for Tarkov because of those reasons. And you remove that from it without pushing the needle in a really unique direction. I'm seeing pretty tepid response, or at least divisive response so far from the Marathon server slam that happened a few days ago. I don't have any stake in it. I'm not really interested whatsoever, but I just feel like there is that trend of this works over here. How can we apply that, but make it way less, in the case of this quote, weird? How can we lean less into the things that made it that really intense, unique experience and try and make it mass appeal style?
Yeah.
And yeah.
My favorite quote I apply to basically everything, and I've yet to find any sort of original source for it, but basically something that is made for everyone is made for no one.
Yeah. Yep. Very good.
All right.
All right. That's a great post, by the way.
Yeah. In the opposite direction of Marathon and the modern things, back to what we started the show talking about. You want to read Pocket Wyvern's comment?
Absolutely. My biggest issue with trying to get into games with a server browser is pushing myself to actually jump into a server. I've never really had much experience with multiplayer outside of modern matchmaking, so joining a server without being explicitly invited feels like I'm intruding into someone else's space, even though they made it public for anyone to join. Well, I mean, it is. We started with server browser. Matchmaking was a new paradigm for us, And so I would just say, it's public for a reason. They
Right.
want people to join it. And unless it's some weird RP server with unique rules, or there are those situations, right? You're going to join a custom game and maybe you don't understand the law of the land of what that unique game type is. But if it's a pretty normal game type, hop in and just have fun.
Yeah. Pretty much anyone who's hanging out on those servers is going to be welcoming because they're going to be happy that someone showed up. And you're going to have a good time. There are the occasional experience, but that's just like joining any social group. If you're invited to hang out with your friends' friends and you haven't, you're not in on all the in jokes or whatever, it could be awkward at first, but you pick that up along the way. You're not going to inherently have it. But yeah, it is interesting to see having matchmaking be this new thing for us at one point in time. I I'm so torn because broadly speaking, I prefer the server browser model just because you get to really pick what you want to play based on what's available. You get to see what's going on, whereas matchmaking is this very hidden hand, out of control experience. But depending on how you're trying to play, matchmaking is sometimes better. Like I do miss the COD 4, Halo 3 matchmaking area where it's like I can just hit play, it's going to find me a cool match that's going to take 5 or 10 minutes and then it's over. Whereas with server browsers, there's those kinds of games lend themselves naturally more to experiences that are lengthier and less kind of quick in and out. Like, especially in like older Call of Duties and stuff, you get we're going to have 64 players and it's going to go on for 800 minutes and 5 million score points because they just want the loop of playing without the closure of it.
I think about it this way, like a Halo match in Halo 3 matchmaking, you load up, we all like give a nod to each other and go, oh, good luck, sir. Good luck. Have a good match. And then we like, finish up, good game, adios. And then you move on into the next one. And you're like, all right, here we go again. And sometimes the server browser thing is like you said, like, what are you doing in here? There's like warthogs flying upside down and things you've never seen before. You're like, this is a whole different universe of game than what I've been playing.
The server browser ones are like basically just hanging out instead of playing the game. And you still get the gameplay experience. And often it's a funner sandbox to experiment with. Like some of my favorite times were joining like a Blood Gulch match in Halo CE and be like, all right, I'm going to see if I can actually capture a flag today or if I can grab the sniper. And I log in and there's tanks up on the high ridge that they've like rocket jumped all the way out of the map. And like you said, warthogs basically flying across. And I'm like, what's happening in here? And you join expecting just like a normal match. And they're just like, welcome to the party. We've got vehicles flying and explosions everywhere. And like, it's really fun. It's not the same curated experience, but when you just want to hang out and just do whatever and not have pressure, it can be a blast.
Yeah, I would wager for the most part, depending on the game and depending on, the server you're joining, most of the time those are like the friendliest players you're going to run into. And they probably want more people to experience their weird shenanigans. Like, come be a part of this, please.
Yeah. Did you know you could get this vehicle up here? I bet you didn't. Come help.
Yeah.
All right. So,
all right. Next one?
Yeah, we got a comment. Well, you got a more personal comment from the Retro Den directed at you, so I will read it so I can pose
by the way, the Retro Den makes amazing videos, by the way. Shout outs.
Hey. All right. Hey, Dragoon. Since you're leaving Discord, I hope you don't mind me throwing a question your way. First of all, thank you very much for all the inspo and great content. The question I had in mind was more from the optic of the watcher. I was wondering, I really like your deep reflective videos and your more laid-back gaming commentary style with stuff like An Evening In. So, I was wondering, where do you get your own inspiration from and what channels similar to yours do you watch? I have been looking for some more OG-like YouTube content, but I'm having trouble finding anything outside of you or Epos's channel. Thanks again.
Wow. Oh, it's such a good comment, dude. You and I talk about this all the time. We talked about this 2 days ago. Thank you, RetroDen. And I did shut down my Discord server. I rarely had used it the last 2 years, but with all the weird things that are coming down the pipeline, I'm like, I just don't. It doesn't match the kind of platforms that I want to support. Right? We live in the era of the internet. And there's so many opportunities to have privacy first opportunities. And going back to the video of the week, incredification is inevitable with these free services. So I guess I should have seen the writing on the wall coming. But I actually don't really get any inspiration from other gaming content. I really don't watch much gaming YouTube at all. I watch right now Linux tutorials, home labbing tutorials, mountain bike videos, and music. That's the main thing that I use YouTube for. And I will say for inspiration, and there's maybe a bigger theme or topic here that I don't really recognize or understand, but I don't want my content and videos to sound like other people's gaming videos. I want to talk about stuff that is original and whatever just comes to mind. And there's weeks where there is nothing. And I have tried to find intentional, thoughtful gaming commentary stuff on YouTube. I made a bunch of screenshot posts to Epos yesterday showing searching thoughtful gaming commentary and literally getting maybe 3 results from Black Ops commentary from 14 years ago, the era that I started on YouTube with, and then just a wall of shorts and videos that had absolutely nothing to do with gaming or commentary or anything at all. Search is so borked on YouTube. It is you cannot even find, like, just go search for a topic you know exists on YouTube and scroll down that search result page on maybe page 2 or 3. It just gets insane. It gets into stuff that has nothing to do with your search query at all. And so I will hand the baton to Epos here, because the one place I can go back and find some of the vibes of what I'm looking for is literally when we started that 2010-ish era of Call of Duty commentaries, where people would just talk about basically anything and rarely talk about the game or the gaming ecosystem or the issues going on in the gaming scene. It was almost all real life stuff. And so I will go back and watch old Hutch or C Nanner's videos occasionally, but for the most part, inspiration right now is coming from everything that I'm trying to learn about, which is home labbing and Linux. I was learning about AI stuff a bunch the last few weeks. And so I don't really have any recommendations on the gaming side, because I just don't really watch gaming content anymore.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that makes my inspiration feel better for any of my work, is specifically avoiding watching whatever the genre or niche or interest area the content I'm making is in. So like you said, not watching gaming stuff. The more I watch tech content, the less good I feel about making tech content for a variety of reasons. And so if I'm specifically interested in a thing, I am looking basically everywhere else for inspiration or entertainment, because yeah, I mean, inspiration comes from life. I wanted to highlight, I will have at least one of these things linked in the show notes. There's an interview on Game Informer with the creator of the, what is it? Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie, which is basically a little movie. It is super goofy if you haven't seen it, but they have an interview with Matt Johnson, who created it, talking about, because they had like video games featured in the interest and stuff. But one of the cool quotes is about basically how video games influence his creative output on every level, not movies. And he specifically makes movies, but he finds inspiration from just the excitement he gets from video games as an entertainment medium. And then I think
the reverse Kojima.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think too, it was, I'm pretty sure Miyazaki, Hayao Miyazaki, the Ghibli guy, not the From Software guy, specifically talked about how he doesn't watch anime because the last thing he wants is anime inspiring anime, because it will become less lifelike, and he wants to make anime that reminds you of life and that feels like it's real and alive. And when you're taking inspiration from the already translated like medium, it no longer really works anymore. And I just think that's such a profound way to look at it. And I feel the same way about YouTube. Like, my favorite YouTube content is almost always from people who have a day job, so they're not just like no-lifing YouTube. They have other things to take inspiration from and use that to inspire their work even more. And I mean, I think back to, I'm pretty sure I have videos on this still on my super old channel. Like, it was a regular talking point that I would try to hound into people in 2010 about how if you spend all of your time making gameplay commentaries, you're going to make much more boring videos because you're not living life and having interesting experiences.
And that's probably the best way, and why so many of us just kind of get stuck being in the average, is because we watched other commentators, and so subconsciously or consciously we take on their ideas and how they commentate, and eventually become like them. And I don't think that's good. I don't think that's how we should do it. Big maybe tip for being a better commentator is don't watch commentaries. Do your own thing. Talk about what you want to talk about, how you want to talk about it, and don't worry about what anyone else is doing. If you find something you really like, or there's like one commentator you like and want to follow, go for it. But as a whole, play games.
And the people that we were inspired by had already had life experiences and were sharing them, and that's what we connected through. And
it wasn't about terminally online culture.
Yeah.
And that I think is a dramatic shift that has happened. Is like part of the reason I loved it back in the day. It was like this companion thing. Like, Hutch and Nanners were just continually talking about like real life topics. Every once in a while there'd be like a meta issue, like when like sniping in Black Ops was like this huge controversy. And then they would talk about YouTube drama as that during the day was like an easy source of views. Like, what was it called when you would bump your video in the sub box?
Oh, I think it was just called video bumping. Yeah.
Yeah. You could do this little technique, right, where you would take the video unlisted to public back and forth, and that would put it at the top of viewer sub boxes, and it became like this huge mark of shame. Like if you were doing it, everybody was like, "You are absolutely gaming the system. You are ruining it," and they would like excommunicate you for doing that technique. And then there were the giveaways that people had a huge issue with,
Yes.
and that was all the podcast talked about. So I'm not going to go back and say that era was glorious. It is filled with just internet junk that sucks, but Justice is a band that I really liked when I was like in college. And I remember listening to their Essential mix on BBC Radio 1 and being absolutely baffled because it was 2 hours of super weird, out there disco music and rock songs from the 60s and things that sounded nothing like their work.
Yes.
And that was so cool and inspirational. And just remembering like, these are the things that they drew inspiration from, and what they created is so dramatically different. You can obviously like trace back and see those inspirations and see those roots and hear little nods to these things, which is amazing. And so I'm not saying there is amazing gameplay commentary stuff and insightful things out there, but for me, I have a whole lot more fun, and I think I make better videos, or at least inspiration strikes more frequently if I'm not listening to a deluge of content. Because right now I feel like most of the thoughtful space is just backlog crap.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And there's something to be said for the kind of psychological impact that like you can't avoid comparison or like taking notes or whatever when you're watching other people's videos, and it kind of influences in any direction your own creative process.
Yeah.
And just makes things so much messier. And so like it's so much more pure to just not like, obviously you can watch whatever's fun, and I always watch stuff in my niche or whatever, but I have always found myself, if I'm like obsessing over something and then trying to make something in that space, I'm immediately like, well, so and so already did that, or so and so is doing that and getting views, therefore I should do that, even though I would no longer be, I would just be riffing on what they did and not doing something original, which is what got them the views. And that applies to I'm applying it to YouTube because I'm boring and that's my life, but you know, it applies to anything.
Yeah. Well, great comment. I really appreciate that. And by the way, to rephrase, I'm not trying to criticize all the backlog content. I just mean there's a huge wave of right now, like, don't feel bad about it. Here's what you do, or backlogs are stupid. And I feel like that's been like the vein that a lot of that content has been locked in for a few years now.
Yeah.
And like I literally like year and a half, I was discovering and like really figuring myself out and enjoying like beating a ton of games and talking through those processes. But there's a point where that has to move on. Like there has to be this cultural moment where it's like, okay, either video games are fun or not fun. If they're not fun, take a break or try something else.
Yeah.
But to be locked in this continual, like, sort of bummed out loop content with gaming, it doesn't make sense. There has to be an evolution past it.
Yeah.
You know?
And circling back to like what we've always talked about, and even some of the earlier stuff, when you are being fed all of that through an algorithm, it's designed to just give you more. So maybe you watch one, and this is what happened to me when I got stuck in the algorithm loop like a year or two ago. You watch one video that you happen to connect with about games not being fun now and how life is different. And you're like, man, yeah, I connected with that. Maybe I don't agree with everything, but like I connected with that. And then that's all you get recommended. And you end up down that hole over and over and over. And then you get stuck in that loop instead of changing. Whereas if you're taking your inspiration from life and whatever, you see that it evolves and you don't get like nothing stays the same forever.
Well, I actually mentioned this. I mentioned this in my video in Evening In like a few days ago.
Yep.
I have to use my sub box. It's just like we talked about with Unreal Tournament and these older games. You can actually still go play them.
Yep.
It's not going to be the same experience. It's not going to be as easy or accessible as it once was. But like, I do complain about how everybody's viewing behavior, myself included, is the homepage and these For You pages and these algorithmic things. The subscription button still exists on YouTube. I don't know how much longer they're going to let that exist.
For now.
I need to use it, and I need to curate the subscriptions because the viewing behavior for me used to be going to YouTube, clicking the sub tab, and then looking at the uploads that day of all the people that I liked following. And that is a much better process than just, they have made the homepages so good on these infinite scroll platform things, right?
Yeah.
And so I have the ability to move away from that, and I need to.
Yep. That's how I'm feeling right now. Let's hit our break, and we will get to some comments after that.
All right, see you all soon.
Woo!
Epos, welcome back. Part 2 of the show. So many comments, so many things to cover. What is next?
A little time. All right, we got a comment from Loose Cartridge saying, so glad that you guys touched on mid games. I honestly think everyone should play more mid. There are so many interesting ideas and concepts that games play with, and the total package is not a masterpiece, but by skipping out on them, you are robbing yourself of a richer experience of gaming as a whole. I think if most people are honest with themselves, their personal top 10 games of all time will probably have some mid in it. And that's a good thing. I'm skeptical of folks whose top 10s are full of universal 10 out of 10 games, like the person whose favorite movies are all Oscar bait films.
Well, true.
Yeah. I obviously I feel the same way, since that's why we had originally brought the topic up. I got some comments about this on my Steam Next Fest videos about the demos that I've shown. And some people were pretty unhappy with, say, for example, I made a video about Spectacle Fighters and DMC likes, and a few people were a little spicy about that most of the games did not have the complete depth and stylistic expression capabilities that you could have in, say, DMC or Bayonetta. And so I shouldn't be counting them as games as like games in that category. When for me, they still do different and interesting things, and it's not going to be a master of anything, but it's going to be something different and unique that adds to my experience and gaming life. And if I just wait around for more exactly perfect games, I'm just going to be waiting a really long time.
Yeah, you can't just go mountaintop only. I think that's what we talked about last time. And if you do, that's how you get the burnout, because you got to have, you can't be always looking for the most optimal times. And our memories and nostalgia is really good at just highlighting the mountaintops and not the mid days and the bummer days, because that's how most days are.
Yeah. And I think like the bit about like your personal top 10 is probably full of mid games. I think that's very true. Like I will forever refer to Halo 3 as like one of my favorite campaigns of all time, because it just felt like this big monumentous thing. But realistically, if we're like evaluating it as a game, like, yeah, it's got a lot that's great about it. It's got a lot going for it. And some of the scope and scale we don't get anymore. And we only saw downgrades going into like Destiny and whatever. But there's also a lot of, they dumbed a lot down coming from CE through to 3 to make it more mainstream, because it was this big thing. And it has some typical trendy things of its genre. Like, it's not this perfect thing. It was just an amazing game for me.
Yep. I think that's great. And following that, Tom Parkin 2068 says, my perfect 6 out of 10 game has got to be Slitterhead. It feels like a PlayStation 2 game, non-derogatory, and is fairly rough around the edges, but that's what gives it charm. I genuinely enjoyed it more than your average 10 out of 10 game. Try it. See, the average 10 out of 10 game, you found your 10 out of 10 game, which is perfect, because nobody's going to watch a film or play a game or listen to music and experience the same things.
Yes.
My movie picks are freaking weird, and I don't ever expect anyone like to be on the same page, because what you've experienced and what you've seen and all the stuff you've interacted with means you get to experience in your own unique way. And I think that is so special and cool. You know, that's the reason you bringing up the very start of the show. How do you find the games that you like? You know exactly what you like, because you've built up that taste and you've made that decision, and you've got that confidence to know in yourself, like, oh yeah, just looking at a quick bit of gameplay, you've got a strong sense of whether it will jive with you or not.
Yes. And that's what developing your taste is all about. If you are just interested in what the masses declare to be the best or most popular thing, you're not really developing your own taste. And I think that makes it even harder to find things you like, because you are just being beholden to what the Metacritic score is or whatever. And that's why I'm always like just anti-scores in general, because we can objectively evaluate like mechanical performance, like mechanical prowess or technical performance, but we can't objectively measure the vibes and feeling and enjoyment of a game, just period.
Yeah, I love it.
Film camera repair. Publicly, oh wait, why is that? YouTube copied publicly subscribe to you. Film camera repair. My channel has grown very slowly over the last 3 years, and I am discouraged. My niche is very small, and my videos take days to create and edit. I get a lot of thank you comments, but no Patreon support. Being a solo small YouTuber sucks, and that is my rant for the day. And that feeds into a second comment we had from Elemental Penguins. I've considered making a YouTube channel, as many of us probably have. I don't know if it's something I really want or something I just like the idea of. But if I did, I think I'd just get a decent camcorder and use all that for recording, including gameplay. Just point it at the CRT or OLED, knowing it's sacrificing visual fidelity. Kind of the sitting next to you on the couch type of video. I don't like the technical aspect of video capture, and I know myself well enough that friction would make me more likely to quit. I could get good or whatever, but I like the idea of it too. I'd still probably have good audio though, do my research on a mic and such. I'd probably just talk about movies, music, games, books, whatever, not try to sell it as the best thing ever, not give it a score, just how it makes me feel, why I like it. I'm not sure if there's an audience for it, but it'd kind of be like a journal of me gushing about my favorite things with some fun editing. And they pointed out that was in reference because we keep teasing that we're going to do some sort of big collab video thing regarding starting a YouTube channel. And you had pitched it in the last episode of Dual Comm Podcast, and it seems like there is some interest. Interesting, the film camera repair comment was actually on something else. I just think that it feeds into it. I think we should do this video because I don't know about you, but I love Elemental Penguin's idea. Obviously, there is some visibility concerns that you'll have to keep in mind with pointing a camera at a screen. But I mean, that's basically what I did for my Channel 3, my version of BBK's Evening In series, Channel 3, which I only did one video on, but I plan on coming back to. But part of that vibe was I want it to feel like you're just kind of sitting there watching me play too, which means not exclusively having gameplay capture, having the over-the-shoulder or the POV shot or whatever, and I'm still experimenting with how I want to do that. But I think it's a great idea. The thing is, and maybe BBK has some different thoughts here, but the channel description, at least, that Elemental Penguins put out there, to me, feels like a very personal idea. It feels like something that you want to do that will make you feel good to make, and those that do come across it, that you do connect with, you will have a really good connection there. But no, it probably won't be a very mainstream popular thing, but that's okay. That's totally fine.
I guess my mic was muted.
Oh.
My bad. I must have like cleared my throat or something there. Yeah, it's funny. There's two directions with each of these comments, which is interesting. One who clearly wants more viewership and more success, or what they deem as success, whereas Penguins is sort of in that experimental phase of like, yeah, I want to make something. I'm reading it as I want to make something unique for me. I recognize it maybe not. It won't have the same technical quality that the more like prevalent uploads will, but that makes it unique. That makes it stand out. That gives me something to do that fits with me and my workflow.
Yeah.
And I like that there's that early recognition of like, hey, I don't just really feel like I'd be interested in this if I have to learn OBS or if I have to look into screen capture stuff. Like I know that would absolutely make me uninterested. So I'm going to try something that does seem sustainable, that does sound fun, that does resonate with me. And I think that's really important. And for the film camera repair comment, it sounds like a shift needs to be made because it sounds like an expectation isn't being met. They're putting work into their videos for days. They say they're in a very small niche, and yet there's no Patreon support. But I feel like the comment identifies everything there to begin with. You're in a niche. It requires a lot of effort, and you don't feel like you're getting the result that you hope for with this. And that's just a different objective. If the goal is Patreon support, you might have to make compromises on what you're doing and shift your target, because there really is, look, at the end of the day, the way modern YouTube has been like pitched to people is this is a great side hustle. This is the way that you can make money. And a lot of people, I think, go towards it because they see this as, oh, that would be an amazing career. I just really want to do that. I want to monetize it. And if your goal is to make this a monetization route, if the goal is to make money, you are going to have a strategically very different channel than somebody who's creating things that are passionate to them. There is a way to blend the two, and that's the secret sauce that everybody is trying to chase, right? The dream of the job that they love every single moment of the day, but also pays them. But that is also the like less than a percent of a percent of a percent of a person, you know, who gets to do that. It's such a tiny, tiny, tiny loop. And so as long as there's this recognition of like, hey, if the goal is a great side hustle with a bunch of Patreon support, then adjust the strategy and move your content in that direction and recognize you have to play the game. But if the goal is to have fun and express yourself and build a great community, even if it's not a big community, then you get to go the Soul Surfer route. You get to try more things. And I am much more a fan of the latter because honestly, it is one of those things where the honest truth is it is such a small percentage of people who upload and create things on the internet who actually get to do it as a living or have it be a successful monetization thing that doesn't rob them of joy.
Yeah, that's a really, really good way to put that.
And I don't think there's anything wrong, by the way, with the I want to make this a hustle. But if you're going to make this a hustle, be prepared. You got to actually do the research. You got to make the shorts. You got to play the YouTube title and thumbnail game. You got to be on all the platforms. It is a boatload of work. You know, I would argue in many cases, depending on your career field, it is substantially more work than a lot of the typical day jobs.
Yes. And there have been, I mean, personally, there have been times in my life when like, that's what I love about it is like, at least before I had a kid, I was working like 80-hour weeks, pouring my heart and soul into this to make it happen and to enjoy it. And that was great. But there were also times when it's like, I just kind of want it to be a stable thing and not to grind so much. And that kind of discouragement was a problem. But ultimately, yeah, you really got to align what you do. And like looking at, just as an example, at Film Camera Repair's channel, looks like tons of super hardcore actual like film camera repair videos, which are great. But as someone who makes and has for many, many years made educational videos, people search for the thing that gets them to one of those videos. They get the value out of it. They may tip you, but then they bounce because they don't need, like if they're repairing a Nikon F2, they then don't need a guide on repairing a completely different camera they don't have. So they got no reason to stick. And so, like you said, you got to align your goals with what you're doing, or you're always going to kind of feel that incongruence.
Yeah, the crowdsourcing route is intensely difficult. That I would argue is an even smaller percentage than those who make it with ad revenue and sponsorships. And just to shout you out, because you do this full time, and you are like the magical kind of less than 1%, I believe, who is able to merge passion and authenticity while still being successful and not compromising on like the integrity of the content.
Yeah.
And I've known you for a long time. You're one of the hardest working people I've ever met in my life. You are continually researching, continually learning, and then working huge hours to put in the kind of like effort and necessary like work to be able to put out the quality stuff that you do, you know? And you love it. This is like the dream, but it is, if people are going to go the monetization route, it's a challenging path full of hard work.
Yes.
All right. One platform rule?
Yeah.
At Aurelian Cole says, from someone who is just in one ecosystem, I love it. Switch. I was a PC gamer for years, played a lot of MOBAs, but I work on computers and I'm burned out at the end of the day being at a desk. The Switch, so flexible, and it being behind technology-wise means rewards the patient gamer with complete packages and collections, etc. I'm looking forward to the upcoming Resident Evil Generations pack. It's been a really rewarding platform to focus on and enjoy, mostly unplugging from multiplayer as well. Huge fan of the podcast. Keep up the great work, guys. Awesome comment. Thank you. And do you want to take MPK Lub or MP Club?
MP Club. Love the conversation. I am super interested in PC gaming, but have a hard time buying into it right now since I have a PS5 Pro, an Xbox Series X, and an OLED Switch. Hard to justify getting more hardware when I already have a huge backlog on all those platforms. My laptop can run anything PS4 era or before, but I think I'm just going to try and focus on the consoles. Yeah.
That seems like a good, you're set. You've got like the full suite of everything. There is more hardware there to play than there is time available, right?
Right. Yeah. And so I thought that was an interesting kind of other side of the coin to our discussion. I mean, because you've been talking about, locking in on the singular platform for a while, but for you for this year, that platform is PC. And we talk a lot about the benefits of PC, but we do always try to clarify, and as best as we can, that like, yeah, if you're already all in on a console platform, stay there. Like you're set. You got it. You don't need to worry about anything. We're not trying to convince you to throw it all out in the dumpster and then get a PC instead if that's not what you're into. Just make sure you take advantage. Like when you have the saddest thing to me, I guess, is seeing people who have like boo koodles of just like top tier gaming hardware that don't get to use it. And I'm like, you got a PS5 Pro, like you're outputting the best graphics a console can deliver right now. Use it. Love it. Zoom in on it. Pixel peep.
Yeah.
Have fun.
I think the whole goal is just to have fun. And my attempt this year to just stick with PC has been super nice because I don't really have to lock in and pay attention to whatever exclusives are getting announced, right?
Yeah.
I might be aware of like, oh, that state of play that we talked about on the last Dual Comm, some of those look cool. And in fact, you just sent me a link. Jason Schreier is now saying that Sony is no longer planning to release PlayStation games on the PC, which is a perfect point for this conversation because what does that mean?
Yeah.
Well, it means that I'm not going to probably experience. They're saying Ghosts of Yotai and Saros are not coming to PC. Well, it means I'm probably not going to experience those, right? Or maybe I'll experience it down the road if I end up getting. I mean, I have a PS5, so I that's the one Let's say Switch 2. I don't have a Switch 2, right? So I'm not going to be aware of what's going on with that cool Donkey Kong game or when they do like a new Mario game or a new Zelda game. And those are things that I'm like, oh man, that'll be really fun. But I'm just trying to focus on one single lane, not having to support multiple controllers or accessories or having to worry about that stuff. And it's been really nice because here's the thing, time is the limiting resource here. So there's the joy of missing out, which we've talked about before. But at the end of the day, it's just about having fun. If you've got multiple systems, are you having fun? Cool. That's it.
Yeah.
And
I will say from personal experience now, in many ways, the multiple system thing is pretty annoying because in our house setup, we've been rocking the GameCube a lot lately. We've been playing. We're almost unlocked everything in Mario Kart Double Dash. We played a little bit of Mario Party. We tried out Mario DDR because my wife's DDR mat was up in my attic, so we got that out.
Nice.
And then he started playing this other game that I forget the name of it. I'd never seen it before, but like it has this super long story intro, and then it starts asking you these goofy questions and generates like basically like a Pokemon style monster for you. And then you can customize it, and then you take it on your adventure. It's kind of sick, but like we've been playing all this stuff. So we have a set of GameCube controllers for all of us that we have to keep charged or batteries in or whatever and keep synced up. Then we have my kiddo's Xbox controller that he plays Minecraft with on the PC. And then we have the PS5 controller that we play our grown-up games on the PC with. And like keeping track of all of that and keeping it charged and the remotes, like I kind of wish it was all in one spot and a little more uniform, but we're having fun with it. But I can like the advantage is as clear as it gets when you're trying to juggle all of this stuff.
Yeah, time is the ultimate limiting factor, and it just depends on how much time you get to game. 30 minutes a day is like a pretty solid day at this point for me, if I get that. And so I want to use that on like these indie games that I'm finding on Steam, or maybe throwing a little bit of time on the Steam Deck, which I actually haven't touched much of. Everything's been mainly like the PC itself lately, but
yeah.
Next comment, Good Shaw.
Pocket Wyvern 98 again, always with the great comments. I've been thinking recently about games that have multiplayer, which doesn't require everyone to be online at the same time. Time zones suck. The obvious example are games where you can have a persistent world set up on a server like Minecraft or Hytale, but there's also stuff like Wargroove, an Advance Wars-inspired game, which will let you battle someone without being online at the same time. And of course, the tried and tested leaderboard system in any game. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this type of multiplayer gaming and its social aspects.
Ooh, that's cool. By the way, Wargroove is amazing. It's basically inspired by Advanced Wars 1 and 2, which are like some of the best little tactical RPGs ever from the Game Boy Advanced era. And so I got Wargroove on the Switch. That was one of the first eShop games I ever picked up. That game is so cool. I had no idea that it had this like chess style offline or multiplayer-ish offline kind of mode where like you make your move and then the other player can make their move. You can play really long chess games that way, where it's just like your opponent has days to make their move, and that's kind of fun. So, what do you think? You've played more server Minecraft than I have.
Yeah.
I know that's not exactly what Wyvern's talking about here, but you probably have more experience with this than me.
Yeah, I mean, they do reference the Minecraft thing, so it's part of it. I enjoy, to a degree, the shared world kind of thing. Like, I've always loved having a group Minecraft server, whether it's for my Discord buddies or for my household, my family, whatever. I really like having that kind of persistent thing where you get to see your progress over time and go revisit the old places. I had big hopes of having that with my kiddo, and he kind of reached a point not long after we started the server where he just wanted to basically make a new world every time he played, so we don't have a lot of that. We thought it was really cool to like have all his old creations and stuff for a while, but he's much more interested in just basically making a new canvas every time he plays, which is fair. That's fine. I honestly, outside of that though, I don't have a ton of experience with it. I've not played mini games where the actual like player engaged multiplayer exists in an asynchronous capacity, and I think it's an interesting concept. I think it comes down to like it's just not the style of games I play. I do think in the Pokemon games you can set up what's called Wonder Trade, or just like online trading in general. Like there's the global trade system, so you can put out a bounty and be like, I want this, I have this, and someone can trade you, and then you can log in and check in and be like, whoa, or you can set up your like a whole stack of Pokemon to get sent out and randomly traded for random Pokemon that other people put out there. And so sometimes you get a group that's just like all Pidgeys or something, like, you know, basic useless Pokemon. But then every once in a while it's like, whoa, I was the one who put Pidgeys in there and I got legendaries back from someone in Japan. Whoa. Like
what is that PC game, the space one? Is it EVE Online that has like gajillion player battles and like ships that are like $10,000 that people blow up and stuff?
Star Citizen is the new one that you're talking about.
No. I know, not Star Citizen. It's the one where people have like the insanely big, massive space battles.
Yeah,
because
that's Eve.
It's Eve. Yeah, I've never touched or entered that world, but I mean, I know it's not probably asynchronous, but it reminds me there are still really cool like multiplayer experiences that I don't think have been explored or unlocked. I got a little concerned listening to the WAN show a few weeks ago because they were talking about the stories where like consumer PC is no more. Everybody's just renting bandwidth on a server blade, right?
Yeah.
And they're not going to sell consoles. It's just going to be a subscription basically. But Linus pitched this thing to Luke where imagine it's a multiplayer game where the only way to participate, it's such on a grand scale that it requires this server grade hardware to be playing. Would you actually play it? If it's like this new evolution of some massively multiplayer concept, it requires you to be on their hardware in the cloud. Would you play it? Would you experience it? And it did. For the first time, I was like, I don't really give much credence to like consumer PC stuff is going to go away forever and it's going to be all cloud. At least I don't see it yet. And maybe that's because bias-wise, I just don't want that to happen. But I do feel like there is probably with some of the insane server-grade hardware opportunities that have never been a potential before.
First of all, I don't know that I see that just being realistic in general. Like that's
how I feel.
Yeah, like there's not much that would be hardware limited that would make sense. And I mean, I think the closest we've had to that so far is just like MMOs. Like you can't play those offline. You have to be on their instance servers because they have this whole complex chain of like migrating between servers based on where you go in the game and blah, blah, blah. I think that's as close as we're going to get. And that's still the online component. You're still running some part of the game locally, at least. I don't know that I would, even if it was somehow realistic, I don't think I would engage in a game that required that, simply because that would just be like the deterring factor for me. I'd be like, well, that's not, I want to play something on my computer. I don't want to log in and do the thing. Like, it's probably not worth it. It's hard. I don't know.
I mean, if they solve the latency thing with game streaming and it is basically undetectable, which I don't know how that happens with our internet infrastructure at all.
I don't know.
So I'm not worried about it. but there is talk. So that's a great comment. Let's hop into the next one here. What game would we stay up all night for? At Charmed Venus. Hey there, fellas. Recently, a YouTube video from 2007 that was a vlog of the Halo 3 release came up on my feed. I've now rewatched it several times for the nostalgia and editing. They stayed up all night to play. I was wondering if there are any games on the horizon that, if given the time and youthful ability, you would be excited to stay up all night and play on release night. Mine is whatever the next Animal Crossing will be. I stayed up that late for New Horizons in 2020. For obvious reasons, I had all the time in the world to recover. Ooh, that's a good question. That is a very good question. The last midnight release I went to, Epos, was Modern Warfare 3. So I'm dating myself. Do you have a remembered final midnight release?
I honestly don't remember it. Okay, yes, I do. I'm going to say it was probably, I could be forgetting one, probably Pokemon X and Y. And the thing is, I did not have a pre-order in for a midnight release of it. I ordered, I think it was either through a retailer or directly through the Pokemon Center retail, so that I could get special pre-order bonuses, that like extra item, like it was a special case and extra items and stuff. And I had only ordered one of the copies, and I thought I was content with that. But for those who don't know, for that series of Pokemon games, I actually did my first full Let's Play through them, and it was a big deal to me. I had saved up basically the whole year leading up to the game coming out to buy my 3DS capture card. It was a whole thing, and I realized like I really wanted to start that night. And so my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, literally went around to different stores trying to find anyone who had copies of Pokemon Y, because I had already pre-ordered the copy of X, but it wouldn't have gotten there at midnight. It was shipped to me.
Yeah.
Trying to find someone who had a copy of Pokemon Y, and most stores did not have them or only had them for pre-order people. And finally I got to like my local like supermarket grocery store kind of thing used to have an electronics game section and had it. And I remember it was already like 12:30 in the morning. We had already bounced around to a bunch of different stores. We got there and I'm just like exasperated to the guy at the electronics counter. I'm like, do y'all have the new Pokemon pre-order? And he's like, yes, we do. And I'm like, why, please? And he's like, what do you mean, why? Because I was talking about Pokemon Y, but I was just like, why, please? And wound up getting it and doing some very not coherent first episode. I think I even started it over the next day to record, because by that point I was too wiped. But that was the last time I did a proper midnight release. And I was super stoked for it. I had a lot of fun with the game, and it wound up taking me a whole year to do the Let's Play. But beyond that, like I'm not sure there's anything that would get me to pull an all-nighter for at this point, like ever.
I have one.
Okay.
Nothing that's coming out this year, because I just did a quick glance again at the 2026 list, and we're pretty like heavy into the patient gaming thing. But I will tell you, Half-Life 3, if it were to exist, if it were to release, that is a tier of game that I would be up all night for. I can absolutely see ruining the entire, for now, like these days, if I were to do that, it would ruin like weeks, not just like the next day or whatever. But
that's what I'm thinking about. Like it would destroy me for multiple days, because then you got to recover, and that's going to throw off your next couple days, and your sleep schedule is going to be messed up. I would take a day or multiple days off of work for a game, but I don't think I'd specifically do like overnight.
But I think that fits in with the vibe of the comment.
It does.
Like, what would is there a game? And I actually think this is the comment to ask all the viewers. What is that game or games that would get you to stay up late or take days off of work? Because that's awesome.
Yeah. For me, honestly, I don't know. If there was, one of you mentioned Half-Life, like one of my pillar franchises where I was justifiably excited for it, be it a new Pokemon or a new Halo or whatever, I'd feel really good about it. I don't know of any coming out anytime soon. I basically did that for Doom Eternal and Doom the Dark Ages, and Doom Eternal came out at the same time as Animal Crossing, so same time period being referenced in the comment, where like I just did nothing but that, keyboard APM spamming for Doom Eternal all weekend when it came out. And then Doom Dark Ages, I did not enjoy as much, but I still was super hyped for, and thus dedicated the first few days straight to just playing during the day. I played in the evening too. Like I was locked in. I hope I have another experience like that, because as much as I am critical of Doom the Dark Ages, the game, that experience of having a game that I knew would be dialed in some capacity that I was so hyped for and dedicated to just jamming on happens infrequently enough that it's this kind of standout thing of like, I really hope I have that soon. But in terms of what is actually realistically coming out anytime soon, I honestly have no idea at this point.
Yeah. That's an exciting, good comment.
One that I could see myself doing, I'm not going to do, but I could see myself doing would be Saros, the Returnal sequel.
Yeah.
I haven't even
Which you'll
beat
now be
Returnal,
playing on
so-
console.
Yeah, which I'll be playing. I mean, that's where I have Returnal, so like that's fine. But like that's the kind of experience that like if I was hyped enough on it, I would do that. But great question.
Great comment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Xemu Emu time?
Xemu Emu. Just like the Xemu Emu commercials. Anyway.
Oh, yeah. I love those commercials. I have coworkers who hate it, but I love those commercials.
Pseudo6484, have you guys checked out the Xemu emulator? Or Xemu, sorry. Your Xemu, I guess, if it's emulation, Xemu. Anyway, since it seems to be very near a 1.0 state, maybe in a few years it would be, and at least 88% of the OG Xbox library is playable, including weird offbeat games like Phantom Crash, nice, and Kabuki Warriors. It took almost 20 or so years to get a proper OG Xbox emulator, but it seems to be here. My only hopes that are in the future we can get a stable Xbox 360 emulator, because the current main candidate, Xenia, still feels a decade off and only seem to have like 30 to 40% of the library playable, which is sad because I do wish to play games like N3 99 Nights. I am so stoked. I've had N3 99 Nights for a very long time, and I've yet to actually play it. I've been super stoked for it, and I've heard it's actually just kind of mid, but like, you know, as we talked about earlier, that's my kind of experience. I honestly have touched very little of Xbox or 360 emulation because it's been so not there historically. Like PS2, I've been emulating PS2 games since like 2006. Like it's just been there. Like it was dialed pretty early, whereas Xbox has always been this kind of like, it's almost there kind of thing. I may play around with it, hearing that it's that caught up, just to have fun with it. There are a couple roadblocks preventing me from really diving in much on it. The first being that it is super annoying to rip Xbox related games, because even though they are on DVDs as a medium, they are encoded in such a way that standard PC drives cannot rip. You have to either happen to find the exact special, like there are a couple PC DVD drives that are actually the same ones that they used in the consoles that you could rip with, but those are like holy grail, super expensive and hard to find. And even getting that working is apparently not super reliable, or you have to have a modded system. I do have modded Xboxes. I bought the stuff to hardware mod my 360, but have not done that yet. But even then, ripping the games on consoles is way slower than on PC. So that part of the experience is a roadblock for me. And the second is like, at this point in my life, if I'm going to play a game, I want it to be like in its playable state as best as it could be. And I know a game like 99 Nights is kind of like Heavenly Sword in regards to it could really use some better performance. So the emulator could help there. But until games are polished where it feels like I'm just playing the game and not playing a busted emulator version of the game, I will poke at it for the tech interest, but not to actually play.
I was surprised. I looked at 360 prices on eBay, and you're looking like $50 to $100 bucks,
Oh, yeah.
which is holding value far longer than I thought it would.
Yeah.
I thought we'd be seeing $30, $40 for systems here. Granted, these are with power supplies and controllers, but yeah, I still have a 360 and an Xbox One VCR, and we haven't even talked at all on any of our programs about Phil Spencer retiring. And the one thing that I will say, maybe we'll talk about it on the Dual Comm next time, I really appreciated Phil's commitment to the backwards compatibility team. And so depending on like the supported nature of it, my preference honestly would be to play some of these on Xbox One, depending on the title, because the backwards compat team for Xbox did some pretty incredible stuff. Like Final Fantasy 13, they actually went and got the higher resolution versions of the FMVs and put them back there. They went in and tweaked the render settings. Like, it's the definitive way to play 13 outside of like PC. In the PC, you need a bunch of stuff to get it working great as well. But like the Xbox One backwards compatibility version, or I guess is it the One X version, the enhanced or whatever one?
Yeah.
Okay, so
but you need a One X
Xbox
or
One
a
X.
Series X or not a Series S for some stupid reason.
Does the Series S not have the One X benefits?
So, no, yeah. So many of the One X versions of the games will not run that way on the One S. And it's some stupid thing where like it's something like the memory bandwidth or something is weaker on the One S than the One X, which is why I always thought
One S. Okay.
No,
But
sorry. No,
Series S.
this is where the names
you do
are
mean the
breaking my
Series
brain.
S.
The new S, the Series S is weaker
The
than the
Series
One
S.
X. Which is why I always thought it was
Really?
a stupid system, because they could have just had the One X and the Series X. But no, the Series X is weaker than the One X and therefore will not run the One X enhanced versions of games. It will run the standard HD versions. Which
You realize, like, we live in the video game space. We talk about this all the
keep it
time.
straight.
How is any parent ever in the history of time supposed to understand that horrific naming scheme?
Yeah.
Who in the business meeting is like, yeah, that's good. Let's throw millions of dollars of advertising behind this.
Yeah. And the Series S does not have the disk drive, so if you have games, you'd have to buy them again to emulate it on there anyway. But yes, it is the definitive way to play so many of those games. You got resolution enhancements, render and output resolution enhancements up to HD or 1440p or 4K, auto HDR injection, which is incredible. Some of them got bananas frame rate enhancements too, which is just mind-boggling that they did so much of that on top of just making it backwards compatible in the first place. Because unlike the modern consoles, the original Xbox was not a standard x86 computer. It was fancy IBM whatever back in the day. And so they put so much work into that. It is such a great thing that I really wish they hadn't kind of shut down with all of their pro-consumer preaching. So I don't
think we'll ever see that again.
Yeah.
Ever. Like, to that degree. And that's unfortunate. That is probably the main thing I'm going to miss Phil Spencer over, is like, he had a commitment to that.
Yeah.
And the backwards compat team really never got credit for that outside of a handful of creators talking about it. You know, I that was pretty rad. So I agree with everything you said on the emu side. So Sudo6484, also not much of a question, but a recommendation, especially for BBK. Since you like to Claire Obscure, and I'm guessing might be open to RPG recommendations, you guessed right. Do check out the SNES game Terra Nigma, or at least check its box art to see if it interests you. And if it does, do give it a try someday. I will. I actually have heard about it before, have not tried it, but yeah, outside of FPS games, JRPGs, not all of them, but like I was a FF7, 8, 9, 10, super big fan. I'm trying to think what other JRPGs. I've beaten the full Xenoblade Chronicles series, and that was one of those things growing up on PS1 and PS2. I did enjoy some JRPGs, so thank you for the recommendation.
I'm watching someone's old stream VOD of it. The main character looks like straight out of the like Chrono Trigger artwork style. That's funny. But
They did a lot with that system.
All right, one more question to end the episode here from Alex Cold was here. I'm 32 and have been a gamer my whole life. I think adulthood has trained my brain that it has to be doing something productive at all times. I can read. I am an adult. The thought of starting a new game or new book feels like I'm agreeing to be unproductive for an unknown amount of time. I also find you need to get several hours into a game or through several chapters of a book before it starts to get good. Most of the time, I only have an hour, so I get caught in an endless loop of starting games, just barely getting past a boring tutorial and then having to put it down for a week. It's hard to keep going and stay invested when you are interrupted like this. I hope someday when I am retired, I will wake up again with no plans, no commitments, and can truly just spend a day just playing games.
That's a good comment. Session games. It's got to be session games.
So this is why I prioritize games that get you started with the gameplay right off the bat over all else, because I cannot stand a game that wants you to sit through even 30 minutes of dialogue or exposition or tutorialing of basic video game controls as if you've never held a controller or mouse and keyboard in your life before. I cannot stand it. It breaks my ability to enjoy a game. And so, yeah, session games, or really every adult in some way can set aside, whether it's a day a week, a day a month, a vacation. You have the capacity, if you put the effort in and actually like commit yourself to it, to giving yourself a free day in some capacity. Now you have to be flexible. It may not be the whole day from wake up to go to sleep. That's not realistic. It may be like a 3 or 4 hour period in a day, or it may be a fun weekend when everyone else is doing something else, but you have the capacity to give yourself that kind of day now. And if you don't do that now, you talk about, the commenter talks about training his brain to be productive at all times. If you don't start building those habits, you're not going to have them when you retire either.
Yeah. There's a understanding of, just like an athlete, you have to rest in order to perform your best. And that doesn't mean that you can just waste a huge chunk of time. And it also means you got to get your stuff done before you can relax. Get your responsibilities done. Get the stuff that matters done, because then you're going to have a relaxation period that is guilt-free. But there's also nothing wrong if you're sitting down to game and going, maybe I should be going to the gym, or going out and doing a community thing, or doing some other elements of life that are beneficial in these other areas. You kind of got to get your stuff sorted. Like, I can't no-life something. I can't no-life anything anymore, but like, there's no way to no-life a thing if I have responsibilities that are cooking in the background. But I can absolutely tell you, there are endless games to go play that you can put 15 to 20 minutes into and get a ton of fun out of. And I'm going to list a bunch, and then I want you to list a bunch, ePosts. So I'm just looking at my recently played games in Steam. We opened the show talking about Unreal Tournament 2004. Congratulations. You can play for 10 minutes and be completely satisfied.
Yes.
Flat Out 2 is a really cool racing game that's on Steam, and it's from the old days, and you can play one race and have a great time.
I've not heard
Just
that name
Cause
in a long
3.
time.
Dude, it's super fun on PC. Little jank, but pretty fun and great on the deck. Just Cause 3, I talk about a bunch. That's a third-person just destruction simulator. You can play for 2.5 minutes. Literally one zip line into a like wingsuit and blow something up. Congrats, you're great. That was fun. Vanquish, MX versus ATV Legends, Easy Delivery Co. I covered that game on my channel this last week. Racing games are really good. Like Gran Turismo is super fun. Street Fighter is pretty fun for that. Super Meat Boy is really fun. Like, you can just play a level or two. Crumble, which is a great platformer. And my list goes on and on. But the majority of the stuff that I am playing these days are games you can do a short session. Stardew Valley. You could do a 1-day cycle in Stardew Valley in like 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, and be done and be happy. And so Lunistis, great third-person platformer game. You can beat it in 2 hours. Guess what? That's a game, if you can only play once a week for like 30 minutes, you've got a month. You got a month right there for a really short, fun, easy game. So some of your recommendations, ePost.
I'm going to throw some weird ones in here just based on what I have played recently prior to Next Fest, where I have a million different demos, but I don't know how those games actually start. Darksiders Genesis. It has some exposition, but you can just kind of skip through it because who cares, and jump straight into the kind of twin-stick Diablo-like gameplay. It is a lot of fun. Same thing with just the base Darksiders games. They're very God of War-esque. They're a little slower and chunkier, but you just start fighting, hacking and slashing, and you're good to go. Skate Story has really interesting vibes and story and whatever, but you're given like 4 sentences and then you're put on a skateboard until to start learning it, and it is fun. You can jump right in. There are games that go in a little silly direction, like the Hot Wheels. What's it called? There's Hot Wheels games on.
The Lego series games are super fun and easy to hop in and out of too.
The Lego ones. There is Vital Shell, which is a roguelike, so there's a million of those, but like cool PS1 style vibes. Marbles is a game I've been playing. It's a puzzle game that's designed to be like the old school Windows 98 DOS era marble games, and it is a lot of fun. Gets you right in. Warriors Abyss, or any Muso games, any Warriors games, you will get thrown right in. There's not really any story. It's purely just, hey, go here on the map and fight. Super ton of fun.
We're like in a better time than ever for nearly endless amounts of short session games, especially with like the rogue genre prominence. The Hades titles are incredible. There's pretty much limitless opportunities for short session games. If you're playing a big narrative games that have a ton of like exposition and walkie-talkies, those are probably not going to fit. It's like trying to think about it from the terms of like movies versus TV. maybe you can watch an episode. Like I've been watching the revival of Scrubs, Epos, and those episodes are like 22 minutes, just like the old days. And that's really nice. But I'm not going to sit down to try and watch a movie in 20-minute chunks.
Yeah.
I want to like set aside 2 hours, watch the movie and see it start to finish, right?
Yes.
And so I think it's a very similar thing. Just match the type of thing that you're going into with the availability that you have. But the bigger element that I see in here in the comment is be willing to recognize the importance of allowing yourself to recharge. And I struggle with this, and I think you struggle with this too, Epos, of the continual voice in your head saying, do more. But in order to do your best, you have to rest at times. You have to be able to tell yourself there are times where you have to recharge the battery. And
Yes.
if you're running on empty continually, your work is going to be mediocre.
Yep.
Period. You may think you're killing it. There's so many of the inbox zero people who are like, I'm going to answer every single email that I get today and have a clean inbox. And it's like, well, are you doing your best work with
Right.
that methodology? You probably feel like you're really productive, but if you had to look at the end of the day, was it as productive as good, meaningful work?
Yeah.
And it's, an important question.
I agree. Good show.
Excellent. Thank you. Where can people find all the stuff?
For me, Epos Vox and Lost Saves. You can check out the Unreal Tournament servers I mentioned at instajib.gg. We've got a Patreon for this show at patreon.com/dualcomm. And that's with 2 M's, of course, for commentary. And where can people find you?
I am at BBK Dragoon on YouTube and at BBKMTB for some mountain bike stuff. And if you guys want to hear the other half of this podcast or the companion show, the Dual Comm Podcast, it's over on my channel. And I think if you're on YouTube, the collab link is down below. We're on all the podcast platforms. If you want to become a patron, you can do it for free. And it's actually a really great way to get a feed of both of the shows, Party Chat and Dual Comm, all in one feed for free. That is patreon.com/dualcomm. I think that's all the links. Thanks everyone for listening. Epos, thank you so much. And looking forward to the next one.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye-bye.